Mr. Foster's class. My name is Taylor, and as many of you may or may not know, we were given a 30-day project where we read a self-help book and reflect on it over the whole month of April. I chose the 7 Habits of Highly Effective People by Stephen Covey. Right off the bat, I'd like to apologize if you see me looking down. I have a written out set of notes because I want to make sure that I can get this all done in as few takes as possible. Essentially what this book is it lists out 7 things that you implement into your life daily. And the way I did it is on the first day of April, I did 1 habit, second day, second habit, third habit, and so on. But the book is structured in a way where it can list out into 3 separate categories, if you will. That first category is going to be independence, second would be interdependence, and final would be continual improvement. Under the category of independence, the first one I started with was being proactive. Being proactive was not honestly very difficult for me to start out with, just because I had always tried to not let my tasks build up, but obviously there is stuff that I could have always improved on. So a big thing for me was prom was coming up at the end of the month. But the first thing on a lot of people's minds when it comes to prom is getting that fit body and improving your diet and just wanting to look a lot better. And that was something that I had never really worked on before this, to be honest with you. I would just sort of eat whatever I wanted, and dance would be the only form of working out that I would really do. After this, I started going to the gym about 3 times a week to begin out, and then I increased slowly to 5 times a week, and I'm gonna be honest with you, now it's more like 4. That's just one form of proactiveness that I could have implemented. Definitely after reading this, it has made it a lot easier for me to go to the gym, because before this, there's always that mental block of, oh, I don't want to go, not today, I'll go tomorrow. Being proactive is all about just like pushing it off and just going. And secondly, there is a category entitled Begin with the End in Mind. I sort of reworded this in my head as the sooner I get it done, the sooner I can get it over with. So as soon as I had a homework assignment, instead of pushing it off until the end of the week or when it was due, I would just get it done. And that made it a lot easier for me on the weekends to do a lot of the stuff you'll see me talking about later in the video, just because I didn't have to worry in the back of my mind, oh, there's this project that's due, or oh, I have this dance recital coming up at the end of the month, I should rehearse later instead of doing it now. So I was more of like a in right now kind of mood instead of that I want to procrastinate until the end of the week kind of mood, which I usually would be in, unfortunately. The overall goal for this month, of course, was that prom. And so instead of looking into the future like I would and just being like, oh, whenever it comes to me, and I'm not gonna deal with it right now, I always had that end goal. The end of this month is prom and this project, so I'm gonna do it now, and I'm gonna incorporate it throughout this whole month. And that was a big part of this month for me. Under that first category, we have first things first. And so for me, this was the hardest one to implement, simply because when I don't want to do something, I don't want to do it. It's hard for me to motivate myself to get it done. And the biggest thing for me this month was working. I know that I had a lot of things that I usually do love to go to. Like, I love going to the volleyball game. I love going out to eat. I love, if I'm being honest with you, I love not working. But for me, I had to put school, work, then the rest of that, because I knew that if I had those priorities set, I would have an easier time doing the stuff that I wanted to do instead of just scrapping together the money that I could to get the week done. Making sure that I had my priorities straight, although it was hard and not very enjoyable for me, it did make the days where I saw my paycheck and the days where I got to go out far, far more enjoyable than if I had put in a separate order of my priorities. And that brings me to interdependence. Interdependence is not so much as thinking about yourself, but thinking about what you can do with the world and what the world can do for you. So having that mutual relationship. The first thing is going to be thinking win-win. So what exactly is thinking win-win? A lot of people have heard that in the past, but not a lot of people will take into account what win-win actually means. So it's not just thinking, I want this, and so I'm gonna do this no matter what other people say or no matter how it affects other people. It's thinking, if I win this, what does the other person get? Or if they win that, what do I get? And so it's all about trying to benefit the people next to you and trying to see what you can grow from out of an experience. I would like to say that after this month, I perfected the win-win mentality to the best of my ability, but to be honest, old habits die hard, and I'm still gonna implement this into the rest of my life, but it is difficult. I know that before prom, I was dead set on my boyfriend not wearing a bow tie. I didn't have much of a reason other than I just didn't like bow ties, and he wanted to wear one so bad. And so not only is it thinking win-win, but it's also thinking compromise. I didn't have a lot to win from that situation by pushing the bow tie or pushing against the bow tie. The situation was resolved just because I decided that it's not specifically worth the battle. Nobody won in that situation. So compromises were made. I dropped the subject, and that was about the end of it, just because I decided that, you know, there wasn't much to win for any of the people involved in that situation other than just anger and irritation. So I know it's really difficult to go into life not with that guns blazing, I just want to be understood mentality, but that brought me to this second category, which is first seek to understand, then seek to be understood. A good thing to realize is that without that human want to understand other people, then nobody is going to be understood. That was a big part for me because I really just wanted people to understand who I was without taking into account how they felt or taking into account where they were coming from. I know that this sounds like a 13-year-old kid just like getting angry at the world, just like, you don't understand me, mom. But that's really how it was. Every time there was a heated situation, to just not blurt out how I was feeling, really sit on how the other person was feeling, and just like take a breather before continuing with my train of thought, really saved me from a lot of reckless and indecisive moments of my life that could have resulted in a lot of bad decisions. And so rounding back to that bow tie situation, I had to understand first that he wanted to wear a bow tie and he thinks that bow ties make him feel handsome before I thought about the fact that I just don't like bow ties. And it's really silly, I know, looking back on it now, but in the moment that like was a heated situation. And so that I just had to take a moment to understand, just let him wear the bow tie. Because to look at it from like a third person point of view, to be honest, before I realized that it's not just about how I'm feeling in that moment. And that brings me to synergize. What is synergize? A lot of you are probably thinking, and synergize is letting go of the reins and letting go of that controlling personality that a lot of people have, where you just feel if I don't do it, nobody else is going to do it the way I want it to get done. And really what synergizing is letting people use their specific characteristics to benefit the team as a whole. This is really big for me because in the month of April, I was offered a position at my job to be a crew lead. And prior to this, I really was just wanting to be the one that does all the work because I felt like if I didn't do it, nobody else would. After they offered me the position and I was reading this book and I heard about synergy, I was able to implement this in a way that made it easier for me to let my crew do what they needed to do to get the work done, and I could do my work, and things started running far more efficiently, and it became way easier for everything to work out the way that it had to work out. And finally, to round out this video is going to be that third category of continual improvement. This is mainly summarized by the ideology of sharpening your saw. So what sharpening a saw is making sure that even though I turned in this video and even though I am finished reading the book, that even after this project is done, I am continuing to enact these 6 habits that I mentioned before into my everyday life. Otherwise, this was all for nothing. That's probably going to be the hardest thing because I haven't been able to practice this yet, because this is something that's going to happen off video. This is something that's going to take place in my everyday life and hopefully when I'm at college and so on. And I'm not going to know if I did sharpen my saw until after I turned in this video, until after summer break and after college and when I'm in the real world, to see if I actually did take into account these habits and did take away anything from this book, because this may have been a great month, but it's not going to mean anything if I just let it go. Something that I hope that I do continue to do in the future. Thank you guys so much for watching. I'm really sorry for the lack of B-roll, fun images, and lack of stories. I'm really not accustomed to taking videos of myself. I don't really take a lot of videos on Snapchat or anything like that, so I hope that I was able to provide you with a fun video, and thank you again for watching.